This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Times to actually grow. We're just coming to the assumption that it's over. Well, some of you are coming to the assumption that it's over. And that's sad because you've already painted yourself into a corner. You're not even giving yourselves an opportunity for some hope, which the prior years have shown you have hope because you have a coaching staff. They actually figure things out and they get through it. All right. Hey, man, this is a plan that Brian Flores obviously approved, putting all those young guys. You know what I mean? That's just kind of the way it is. He felt like he could overcome it. Well, then it becomes a much bigger challenge for the coaching staff. But we have to understand that. Now, do I agree maybe with the planning a little bit? I disagree a little bit, especially when you have an injury-prone quarterback. And Tua is an injury-prone quarterback. That's proven. You know? That's part of it. But I just find it funny how there's so much panic. It's now look at this. We get, again, we talk about this on the show all the time, the narratives, right? And people create their own narratives. And let me give a little credit to the _real_reason. It's the Finish Line. And this gentleman does a podcast with Richmond Webb, I believe. He does this podcast with Richmond Webb. And I want you to see this because it's interesting how, some people, again, narratives, they say, well, it's his own fault. Well, he was kind enough to put up this video. And look at the video. Look at the video. Hit as he throws. 197. Look at that. What do you do there? What do you do there? 197 under 2 seconds. He got rid of it. He got rid of it. But he got clobbered. That's the offensive line, dude. Not doing his job. Jesse was absolutely terrible. That's why I say that, listen, Jesse Davis is Jesse Davis. Just go all in now. You got to just throw in Eichenberg. Jesse's not your future. Might as well learn with Eichenberg, bro. Let him make the mistakes because he's got a future. Jesse Davis is keeping seats warm for somebody to replace him. You know what I mean? So if your only established veteran is going to play like that, because he's supposed to be a six-man, let's be honest now. So, I mean, he probably should be a guard because he's probably not the athlete that you need on the edges and protecting the backside of the quarterback. But it's hard for anybody to make a decision under 2 seconds. And it's not Tua's fault when someone else is not doing their job. The league is littered. Do you know how Steve Young retired? Any of you understand when you remember Steve Young, quarterback? See him on NFL whatever it is on ESPN and all that crap he was on last night. Steve Young retired because he got concussed. And it was like I don't know how many concussions, but he was already on the brink. So Lawrence Phillips had a lot of issues, including here in Miami. And he was cut from several teams, obviously originally the Rams that drafted him. And he then went to NFL Europe, played for the Barcelona Dragons, and had a good year, actually. All right. In fact, Brian Finneran was on that team, who then went to Atlanta and was a good receiver. And there was another player on that team, on that Barcelona Dragons team, that made an NFL roster. But obviously, those two guys had not made NFL rosters. But we all know Phillips was on an NFL roster. Then he went back to Europe to try to resurrect his career and had a really good season. So San Francisco was having trouble with their running back who was having ankle issues. And so they signed Lawrence Phillips. Lawrence Phillips missed the block that knocked out Steve Young and gave him his final concussion and ended his career. Basically, the decision by the front office cost them Steve Young's rest of his career, because he might have been able to play for the rest of that year and another year if he could have stayed away from another concussion. But he had so many because he was a running quarterback and he was a tough dude, bro. I mean, he was fearless. And so he took hits. Probably should have done a lot of sliding, and he did not do enough sliding in his day. And so Steve had the final concussion. Do I blame Steve for that? Do I blame, oh, you didn't call the protection? No, dude, sometimes you got to do your damn job. And Lawrence Phillips, rest in peace, whatever, dude, but I have no sympathy for you. That stinking bum didn't pick up the block. Okay? By the way, this is an animal that tried to run over kids after a pickup football game. So I have no sympathy for Lawrence Phillips. Okay? The world is a much better place without Lawrence Phillips in it. He's a bad dude. So, if you think I'm being insensitive, screw you also. Anyway, so he misses the block, and it ends the career for Steve Young. Got to do your job. There's 11 guys on the field, and you got to do your job. Jesse Davis didn't do his job. I'm not going to blame Tua. It's less than 2 seconds. We used to struggle to try to get Tannehill to get rid of the ball in 3.5 seconds. And remember, 2.8 is the threshold. So they couldn't even get him to the threshold because that's how you practice. You want to get the ball out under 2.8 seconds. And he got the ball out in the 197. He just had no time overall to protect himself, and the poor kid got trampled. And they probably should have done a better job of putting experienced linemen in front of an injury-prone quarterback. There's no doubt about that. But just because he's injured doesn't mean he can't play.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.